Hi, this is Andy Collin from Growing Up Aspen Adventures of the Unsupervised. I'm here with Chris Pomeroy and Heath Kizzier. Heath came into Aspen High in his senior year and graduated. Moved on, went into acting, was in Wyatt Earp with Kevin Costner. Did 3 years in Young and Restless, and now runs and owns Four Oaks Farms. So let's catch up with Heath and hear his adventure. I would say, speaking on what we just talked about, like because of these generational change stuff, if you could give advice from the life that you grew up with to a generation now, what would you say are things that you learned that are really important that they should try to sort of incorporate?
Well, one that I'm high on right now is put money away. Do that 10%, pay yourself 10%, put it in the savings, get it working. Uh-huh. I spent way too long accumulating it, and I wanted that bank account, and I got the bank account, but I was so worried about making that money work that it sat there and it just did nothing. And so get started now, get money working now when you're in your 20s, and because we're getting to that age, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And now I'm looking back definitely. Going, wow, I made some mistakes there. And that is a big one as we're aging up, and we're going, okay, so got a plan to live to 90, and that's a lot of cash to have. So anyway, that's my biggest one right now that I'm really telling anybody that will listen, just go. I've got a good buddy he's 36 now, I think, and I'm just he's a 4-time Muay Thai world champion.
Oh wow.
And interestingly, those guys don't make a whole lot of money, but like, Charles, you gotta do it. You have to do it. You have to. So what else? I think, and I've alluded to it multiple times in our conversation, but to not follow life, to take the lead in life. Mm-hmm. And I don't exactly know what that looks like. I know what it feels like for me, because I'm a different guy than I was back then. But to take command of it. Mm-hmm. That, for me, that's a big one, because it can go sideways, and there are opportunities that you find when you just zig with wherever life wants to carry you, but it can go sideways, I think, if you take that to an extreme.
There's a good financial analogy. A friend of mine said, if you figure money is like a water flow through a pipe into a bucket, and you use what's in the bucket when you need it, but you have to plan for the day when they turn that spigot off, because all that's left is what's in the bucket. Mm-hmm. And mm-hmm. I mean, I'm there right now, and it's, yeah, you need to either get a new spigot, or you gotta plan ahead, get a bigger bucket,
I think for me, a big bit of advice would be, because I've never, it's being willing to always be learning. You're never going to always know everything, and the whole point isn't about knowing everything. The whole point is about keep learning.
Yeah.
And every adventure is a new lesson. Again, that's the whole skiing thing, the untracked powder, looking for that special run and being that frontier person, and I feel like the younger generation, they just want it so easy. And I feel like the hard part yeah, it's tough, but that's also what you look back on and say, okay, look what I came through, look what I did, and that's also what makes you a stronger person, is when you get through some of that stuff. So I would say not to be afraid of those things, embrace them,
Mm-hmm.
And it feels to me like right now everybody's so afraid of uncomfortable stuff, whereas that's all we knew. We just jumped into it,
Well, it leads into the biggest thing that changed my life was when I decided to laugh at myself. When I was a kid, everything was just so serious, and anybody that would have not even a complaint, but just a comment that might sound like it was an attack, I would take it like an attack, and I would get defensive. And so, I mean, one thing that it did is it made me want to be the absolute very, very, very best in anything that I did. And so that was positive. But the kickback on that was that it made me not really, tagging into your point, which is it made me not live life. I didn't have fun. I wasn't having fun. And so when I finally made that switch, and it was over the course of a couple of years going through a divorce, and it was messy, but I'm so much happier. I'm so much lighter.
Yeah,
I can laugh at myself. If you insult me, or say what the hell are you wearing, before I would go, what these are fine, these are brand new, and now I'm
it's born of insecurity.
Yeah, probably need to wash those.
I think to Andy's direction that he was going with the kids wanting things easy, I think that I hesitate to say that, because I think our parents probably said that about us, and their parents probably said that about them, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's a simple concept that we all miss, and Heath, to what you just said, similar to my kids sitting in the back seat of the car and missing the world go by as they're focused on this stupid little endorphin rush. There's a mismatch there in that we constantly try to do things that make us happy, but we confuse joy with happiness. You can't conflate those two, because a moment of joy is a momentary pleasure that offsets a momentary negativity at some point in your life. But happiness is a long-term thing. You know what I mean? And sometimes, I know for me, it's taken me my whole life to learn that. If I knew that when I was 16, this whole world would be a different place, But that's the whole thing. I mean, we're chasing after happiness, and right now our kids are chasing after happiness. The pretty girl, or the awesome car, or a really cool job that'll give them money and stuff. And in reality, when you're chasing that stuff, you're missing all the rest of the stuff that's happening in your life. It's just going right on by,
Well, and all the failures. So these younger generation, but seriously, I mean, they don't have enough failure in their life to know how to deal with it and to know how to overcome it. And so failure is just blowing them up.
Well, also, you can either look at failure as a mistake, or you can look at failure as a lesson. And exactly. I feel like that's where the idea of how to look at it is kind of misplaced. And I think looking at it as a lesson, then it's a step, it's a notch in what you do. So it's not as if, oh my gosh, I totally screwed that up and that's terrible.
Yeah. In corporate America, that's a mantra they use is, fail fast, fail well, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a valid point. And you brought it up earlier, Heath, when you said you made a lot of mistakes in the past. Well, we all do, but you wouldn't be who you are today if you didn't do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's.
But I'll step off my
and I feel
guru thing.
I feel like that interesting part is hearing all those turns that each one of us took in our different steps.
Yeah.
And they're battle wounds, but we all have them, and we all got through them. So we're all looking at them in the past. So it's kind of fun, I feel like, to kind of go through and see that, you know.
So what's the verdict then in the one thing we all have in common in this discussion, which is we all went through a lot of those things in Aspen, battle wounds or joy, you know? Which is it as you look back?
Yeah, I'm triggered in my brain about how my life, maybe it wouldn't have been different. It would just, when I was making the change in my life, what I said to myself is, okay, find the one man that you know that leads a really good life. And it was interesting. It was this guy that I worked with, and he was a gay guy, and he was the most man I knew. And
awesome.
So I literally, for a couple of years while I was retraining myself, I said to myself, how would John handle this? And I mimicked until I trained myself to do it. And it changed everything. And I tell that to the young people that I deal with. It's like, pick somebody, I don't care who it is, pick somebody who you respect, who you would think would handle this situation the best. And when they are able to do that, I can see it make a difference.
Yeah. I do that too. I kind of do that too. I think of some folks that are inspirational for me, and I go, how would this person deal with that? And it's pulled me through stuff. It's kind of cool to be able to have that perspective, you know.
You know, you just had shook loose a memory for me of one of the best bosses I ever had was a guy named Scott, and I worked for him at McDonald's when I was like 15 or something, and then years later he went on to buy the In-N-Out House sub shop, and I went and worked for him for a little bit. And one of the most valuable lessons I ever learned was from Scott one day when we were in the midst of a lunch rush, and there were people jam-packed out the door, and we had phone calls coming in for orders, and we were making sandwich after sandwich, and I was supposed to pack them all up after I make them and go out and deliver them. And I'm sitting there making like 6 sandwiches at one time, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, the stress is crazy. And I put some mayonnaise on there, and I put the knife down, and that sandwich fell face down right on the floor. And I went, holy crap, I'm screwed. And he just looked at me and just kind of calmly giggled and said, all right, well, let's just make another one. And we did. And it never even fazed him. And I changed the way I thought about work and stress right off the bat, because yeah, you can freak out, but then nothing gets fixed and nothing moves forward. Or you can just deal with life and the shit that gets thrown at you and fix it and move on, you know. And I mean, what a lesson to learn when you're like 17 or whatever I was, you know.
It's a very good lesson.
Actually, that's what I learned about in the restaurant business. You're in the rush hour. You can't do anything until you get through the rush hour. So if something happens, you just got to keep going and just keep going. Yeah. And then later on, after the rush hour, you clean up and get ready for the next one. But it's like it comes in waves. And
but that's true. But I think the difference was the way that Scott's personality and his management style were.
Right.
Is that literally, it could have been as if nothing had happened at all. And he was just like, okay, cool, pick up another one, let's move on, you know? And it was like, yeah, it was eye-opening, and it made me think of what you were saying, Heath.
Well, and to
somebody that
inspired to compare somebody like that to the opposite of the boss that freaks out, flips out, again, it slows or shuts everything down, so you can't move on. And it's a big difference of those people who are constantly complaining.
Oh yeah.
and constantly.
Well, and we've all had bosses that do that, where they start screaming, "Oh my God, you're wasting money. That's coming out of your paycheck," that kind of stuff, and it doesn't work. And Scott was like, "Who cares? Let's do it. Fix it. Let's go."
My number one pet peeve in my industry has always been the blame game. I hate that. The minute someone passes the buck on someone else, it's like, for me, I feel like that's just pathetic, and it doesn't help, and it just is even worse of a problem, because you're pushing the problem on down the pan rather than fixing it, helping it, pointing it out, dealing with it. You're just sort of passing it on, and that's always been an issue for me, as the person who passes, "Oh, that was John's fault. Oh, Chris didn't do this right. He didn't prep it for me right, so I screwed it up." You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like that's always been my pet peeve, is when people do that in that kind of environment.
And it just makes everybody around you miserable and on edge, and it makes things not fun. And that's one of my goals, and that's one of my things now. If I'm not having fun, two words of wisdom: if I'm not having fun, I'm not doing it. Right. And the other one is, if somebody's trying to sell me something or bring me into their world, if they can't explain it to me that I can understand it, I'm out.
Right.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Where if somebody's digging a ditch for me and they have to do this and they have to do this, but if they can't explain it to me, I'm not a dumb guy. If they can't explain it to me so that I can understand it, I'm out. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Because there's those people that are really, they can talk up a storm and they can make you feel like you're dumb, and you need this. You need this. Well, if they can't tell me why, then
I feel like a lot of times when I get that, I feel like people are talking in circles, as there's no real, there's no point that they're getting to. They just are spinning around the important part, which is what you want to hear.
Well, Andy and I go over this almost daily. We talk about the elevator pitch, or the log line when you're writing something, and it's same thing. If you can't boil it down to a sentence or two that really explains what it is, then you don't have a concept that's ready for big time, or for anything really. Still baking in the oven, keep it going.
Yeah, those log lines are tough.
Yeah.
yeah.
I know, you got to boil.
And then when you think you nail one, somebody comes up and they're like, "Oh, well, that does bad, and this market won't even respond," and it's like, wow. Well, I hadn't thought of it that way.
It's hard to take like 20 pages and boil it down to 2 sentences,
Yeah.
And then to have somebody say, "Well, that's too long. You got to shorten that up."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I only have 8 seconds.
Can you trim
not
3
9.
seconds out?
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. The authors of Growing Up Aspen would like to thank you, and would like to also thank the Aspen Times and the Aspen Daily News for giving us materials for our book, Growing Up Aspen, Adventures of the Unsupervised, which you can get at twistandturnpress.com and any local bookstore. Thanks.